Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today for the Q&A. It's really nice to see everyone here, and I think I had a great time chatting with you all. I hope that, you know, you really enjoyed the film. Have your questions prepared. We are going to follow the same format that we used to, even with our Vimeo and Zoom screenings. So please put your questions in the chat. We'll be taking note of them, and once the moderated Q&A is done, we will ask you all one by one to either ask your question directly to Kislay, or if you prefer that we ask your question for you, please mention that in the chat as well. That's kind of it. So I'm going to have Alka and Kislay join me, and we can get started.
Are we good to go? Kislay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Well, welcome to Indie Meme and welcome to our first screening of the year. And it's wonderful to get some FaceTime with you and finally meet you virtually. For those of us, for those in the audience who are watching this short film, Hamare Ghar, back in 2015. Didn't get to chat with him at that point, but film and Kislay, maybe you can tell people where to find it at the end of the Q&A, so in case they want to go look up your other work. But thank you, and we've just finished, for me, the third time watching Aise, and every time I notice new things and I'm moved by how absolutely lovely the film is. So thank you for sharing it with us, and let's get straight to it. It took you 2 years to write the film, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, so in some sense more than 2 years, but yeah, I think eventually, if you say, if I start with the pre-production, then it's 2 years. I mean, script.
And tell us, sorry, go ahead. I said, tell us about the process of writing, coming up with the idea.
So initially, I had this film is inspired from a short story by Bertolt Brecht, a German playwright writer. So I had read it long time back when I was in my film school. I was studying over there, and I had thought of making a short film, and it's just about one or two sketches of this old woman, and she's just doing things. But somehow I could see that I wanted to bring other characters in. I wanted to also see from their point of view, because if one has to imagine this situation happening in one's own family, then you have to present everyone's point of view, because then that is the time when the problems becomes complex, because each of us think from where we are. So I could feel it that just telling the story of this old woman will not do. It will also be important to understand where the characters are coming from. So one intention was that. Other thing was that I was it was in 2014, and I was in Allahabad. It's one of the city in Uttar Pradesh. So yes, I kept thinking about it, and somehow I wanted to bring that environment in, because I was walking along in the city and feeling certain things. So I thought that it won't be good if I don't get this environment in. So I thought of writing in a sense that there is one journey of our protagonist, Mrs. Sharma, and then there is a journey of the family, and at the third layer there should be a journey of the society where she is living in, the city which she is part of, and how all of it relates. So yeah, that was broadly the concern with which I set out to write. It took me 2 years, because one was I was also trying to find finance for my film. Then at every next draft, it kept changing. I kept feeling that something is not correct, or the characters are just going too haywire. In fact, both in the scripting stage and even at the editing stage, I had to keep thinking that the movie doesn't become unmanageable. In the sense, it shouldn't go like my first cut was around 4 hours. The editing has been all about balancing different characters, and yet, making you connect with different people, different characters and their journeys.
And you've done a great job considering how many layers your story has. It has so many layers, and um, it definitely is Mrs. Sharma's story, but it is also the story of her son and her daughter-in-law, and her friends that she makes along the way, and the city and the political situation. There is a lot going on, so I can see how you were struggling with keeping it, you know, to a shorter film and not a 4 hour long film, because there was so much you said through the film. So tell us about your casting. This Mrs. Mohini Sharma seems like she was, just you couldn't do anything better than her for the lead cast, and even all the supporting cast. They're all such fantastic actors, and so tell us a little bit about finding the right cast.
Yeah, actually, the credit for the cast goes to, I mean, my two of my friends, and they are not. So a lot of people who have worked in this film, they are not professionals in the sense that they don't do this for a living. So they are basically people who were assisting me in direction team and also casting for me were two of my friends from college, and they are actors. But when we used to see many films, we used to feel that okay, the casting is not correct, and if your casting is not correct, then you struggle a lot in the shooting stage, because you keep trying to make an actor do something which that person, it's not there in that person's being. So we were very sure of of getting the right kind of casting, but we were not able to find people, especially the old woman, Mrs. Sharma. So we kept, for almost, I started looking for my characters, almost 6 7 months back before the shooting had to start. And I remember that 1 month before, I was almost at a crying stage because I was just not able uh, to get this character. And what was happening was that at this age, in India, in north part of India, they were either professional actors, like people who you have seen often on TV, or they were complete non-professionals. With complete non-professional, because it was so hot, because we were shooting it almost, I don't know how do you measure in USA, but it was 45 degrees Celsius in India. So it was like really hot, and I was auditioning a few people in Allahabad who were not professional actors, and after every scene they will just get so tired out. So I wasn't sure that someone who doesn't have an experience of shooting or going through it will be able to go through it, day in and day out for 40 days. So, but thankfully, at the very last moment, my friend and he just saw this audition. I think another friend had suggested her, and that time she wasn't in the mood for it exactly, because she thought, who are these people who are suddenly auditioning for it? But she just gave. But we really liked it so much that my friend immediately flew to Bombay, where she lives, and her Hindi was very different, because Hindi is spoken very differently in different states. So she had a very she's originally from Kashmir, so she has a very specific Kashmiri accent. But so we he flew to meet her in Bombay, and she came on board, and she said, I will definitely come immediately to Allahabad and let me try and get the accent correct. And she was such a sport. So yeah, and so that was really, but it happened exactly at the last moment, like 15 days back, and I'm thinking that this movie will not happen because I don't have I don't have the cast, and I thought maybe 6 months was too less. I should have started almost a year back or something. But yeah, they were very particular about casting. Like every character you see in the film, they have it has been very sincerely casted, and not like okay, they are only here for a scene or something. And we were very sure that because if you get all the people from Bombay, then you end up just duplicating all the faces you have seen. So we wanted to, just bring in fresh faces. So there were a lot of local actors from Allahabad. And yeah, I think if people are comfortable, they tend to act very naturally. So I think, many of them, it's not like I had to put a hard effort with them. I just gave them the milieu and told them this is what they had to do, and they, most of them, just did it. So it's credit to them that if you just make people comfortable, then they can easily at least act themselves out like as they are in real life.
And I think Virendra Harish Khanna, who plays Virendra,
Yeah.
has done a brilliant job. I mean, I think that is a tough character to play, where you you understand Mrs. Sharma and where she's coming from, and even understanding her, you can still kind of empathize with what he's going through. It's and I think you all your characters are very, all your actors came across very, very sincere. They were totally into character, so that was just brilliant. um, Tell us, let's talk a little bit about the city, because this is definitely an ode to, I think, Allahabad as you know it. It's almost seemed like it was breaking your heart that Allahabad was becoming Prayagraj. And you, through many references through the film, you kind of show that change the city is going through. It's wonderful that Virendra is at All India Radio, which is the old school, and you can see the new school with the FM radio coming through. It's interesting. They want to talk about smartphones. It's interesting. You can see the changes through so many other things, the billboards, the city, the malls, and yet their thinking is still so conservative. So, in many ways, I mean, this film could have been shot anywhere and it would have reflected probably every part of India which is going through that change. There are two parallel lives that people are leading. So, tell us about your love affair with Allahabad.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've lived in the city for I did my schooling. My parents are still there, so I keep going back there. It's my hometown. So, so after FTI, as I told you, I was there because I'd finished film school and I was not sure where to shift next. So I was there for 2-3 months, and actually then the idea dawned upon me that I can actually make set this film in Allahabad. And as matlab, it's like you think that you know every city, but of course if you have lived and interacted with a various set of people, you seem to know the inner psychology of a city, and you can't say the same about every place where you have lived on, that you know it inside out. So with Allahabad, I in some sense I could feel that kind of confidence. Maybe because I've also grown as individual over there, so I have seen myself shifting. I have heard talks. I remember like first when the first McDonald's came, it was like a feeling of feeling proud. All of us as young school children, we were feeling proud about it. Ki, now our city has McDonald's. Yeah, now our city has the first this multiplex chain which is there in India, very popular. So it's like different small cities, they compete, and there is a sense of being global when these things comes in, when these global brand comes in, and this it just seeps into your talk, and suddenly you will want to buy the stuff from there. You will want to feel global in that sense because that is what you see in advertisement, that is what you see on TV.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring this feeling in where the ambition has gone global,
Yeah.
and yet the underlying situation is getting more and more restrictive. I mean, that is the pressure wherein faces, whereas children has become global and wanting to do things, and but the economic security is decreasing day by day. So that itself gives rise to a lot of tension and pressure, and you will see it somewhere. It will reflect in either in the beating, either in the hatred against minority. So I also wanted to, not go into the detail, but just evoke these kind of things. And I thought, the whole environment of there's this rhetoric of, strong development, of us becoming a smart city, of
Smart
us
city. Yeah.
becoming a global city. Like, for example, actually it happened, it sounds funny, but the American officials, they visited Allahabad and they signed MOU. So when Obama was the president, he, I think, adopted 2 cities, and one city was Allahabad, to make it into a smart city. So it won't be a big deal anywhere, but in Allahabad it was a big deal that US has adopted us, and now we'll be developed. So yeah, just also wanted to bring in these funny things and elements which was there.
And everything is done at such an amazing pace. I mean, that's one thing that when one sees your film, you give everybody the chance to breathe. You give your characters the chance to really, emote and capture the backgrounds and capture the settings. The sound design is amazing. So between the cinematography and the sound design, I think you had a fantastic technical team there. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about your crew?
Yes, definitely. I think the crew. I mean, and these are the people who is really working in different set of independent cinema, like my the camera person in the film, Somananda Sahi. He worked with this film called Ibaleu, which you must have seen in indie meme. Then he
We did,
worked with Nasir, another indie film.
yeah,
Gautam again, worked
yeah,
into these different films. So these are 3, 4 people, who are actually in some sense without having a very organized support for independent cinema. They are really investing it, and obviously they are undercutting themselves in some sense. Like if they work in Bollywood films or commercial films, they will get 10 times more money, but they won't have time to make space for these films. So I was really glad that, and they are more experienced than me. Like this was my first feature length films, while they have done at least 3, 4 feature length films in their respective positions. So I was very glad, and good thing was that everyone was everyone had a, like, we were sure about certain things. Like with Somu, I was sure about, and we have been batchmates since, like, everybody is from my film school, so we
I
are
was going to
batchmates.
say, is this a FTI mafia little group?
Yeah. So good thing was that we were like very sure. Okay, usually the small town, say in films, or at least in Bollywood films, is presented as a series of nostalgic images, like people who have lived over there. So small town will be about this big bungalow. It's called Haveli in India. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, or that big terraces with people flying kites, or dingy lanes crisscrossing through things. So I always used to feel that people are not capturing things on the go. Like this is the director's memory of things which either he or she has heard or have lived 10 years back.
Yeah.
So one, we were very conscious of not putting these nostalgic elements in, you know. So in that sense, and my crew was in that sense in sync, and they kept guarding me if they could see a nostalgic kind of thing, because often director goes with the flow. So that was very interesting, and yeah, like even for sound design, we Gautam was very specific that we will get the particular sounds. Like otherwise, you get the same kind of sound bank going in different films. So all of them were so passionate, with getting the things right, that it just pushes you. And everything took time because we were making it for the first time, and also because we had so much of footage and we could shape it. It was like a novelistic kind of film, so you could shape it in different ways. So yeah, it was really fantastic to work with a set of friends who were friends but also very professional, and very much up to the mark in their own department.
Excellent. Okay, I have another 30 questions for you, but I think we need to open it up with the audience. I see a lot of questions in chat. Ananya, why don't you hop back in, and did you want to kind of, yeah, take it from here?
Yeah, I can do that. Thank you so much. That was such a good Q&A, and I think we're just getting comments and comments and comments, Kislay. It was
Yeah.
a fantastic film, and
Thank
like
you,
I was
Kislay.
saying, the
Yes.
second viewing really like opened my eyes to it even more. So let's get started. The first question comes from Shubhada, and Shubhada, I'm going to ask you to turn your mic on and camera if you feel comfortable, and ask your question.
The question was, the photographs that you showed, I noticed that some of them were in forward order and some of them in reverse chronological order, especially the two younger ones. Was there a reason for it? They really made it a special. Those photographs made the characters real. Thank you.
Thank you for this. I'm so glad all of you are watching film so minutely, because I mean people rarely notice the order of photographs. So yes, with the people who have lived their life, specifically, I was slowly going in a reverse sort of way, like with the old woman. It's because it's like you slowly arrive and seeing her the younger days of it. With the two other with people who are in the middle stage of their life, for example, Virendra and the daughter-in-law, the Sonia. I thought it's like I wanted to, in that sense, shock the audience with their younger moments and then see the marriage, because it's like an arc which I mean, I won't say marriage is a compromise, but it's like an arc. You start out fresh in college, you were part of different things, you were doing different things, and suddenly like marriage happens, at least at that generation by mid 20s or so, and then you are like at it. Suddenly things have changed for it. So with Virendra and Sonia, I wanted to give that kind of thing. And actually with different people I had different things. So with Vicky again, I was this sense of like a live the boy who does violence. With him, I had this idea of that even within those 17 years of life he has lived, you can almost see him as, you can imagine him as a 1-year-old boy, like a small boy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that was the intention, like that. Not earlier I had arranged everything in a reverse order upfront, but then I felt like changing things and not just following that order. It really depended upon whether I wanted to immediately juxtapose a younger image of them or to lead the audience into a younger person.
I think that's why it was like really effective, and it was really noticeable there. I'm going to keep the conversation going. The next question comes from Nivya. Nivya, if you could just turn your camera on and ask the question, and turn your mic on.
Yeah. Hi. The movie was fantastic, and I had a question which you sort of have answered. My question was, how was the story inspired, and was the end intentionally kept open-ended?
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I told you, in the sense of inspiration, it will be a bunch of things. It will be the story of the short story itself, because then when the first idea came, then the just to idea of exploring this family, because I do feel that, that family is the first institution which shapes you in some sense. And if
Absolutely.
there's something which is going, or I feel this is a moment of churning for India as a country, of what we thought our image of ourselves and what is the actual reality of ourselves. So then, does the Indian family have a role to play in what is happening to the nation? So the other question was of trying to understand the mechanics of a family, other than just the Mrs. Sharma. And third thing, of course, was the space. And I do feel that all these things overlap and interacts, like in any complex reality, which gives rise to such kind of shape. The second, open-ended, yes. So I mean, Brecht also writes about it, and I was also conscious of his writing, not writing as in the aesthetic principle or the broader thing. Is that what happens if she would have had just because the idea was there of just ending it in the old house, like she's just there where she was living, but then it had this feeling of tragedy where where like basically you do something against the society and the society takes over. Like we are back to the status quo.
Sure.
uh, Other thing was to give it a very hopeful ending, like where she is just continuing to just enjoy her life without giving without giving any sort of things around what is happening to her friends or to the whatever, and she's just on her own. But that would have been unjustified to the character and to the situation as well.
Sure.
So I wanted something which is, in the middle. Like she has her own house, but she's out of the city. It's one of those newer apartments and not the kind of thing she desires actually. But yet she's still independent. She's not going back to the decision she has made for herself.
Yeah, she seemed to
So
be more of a free character or a free personality,
yeah,
not getting stuck or bogged down by other the demands, the unsaid
yeah,
demands of other people. But her sister-in-law, she seems to be the way she was as a young person, but in this role seems to be very trapped in, and she accepted it, and she was suffering a lot
hmm,
internally. That's why you see
hmm,
her crying when she is actually washing the vessels,
hmm, hmm,
and she doesn't want to cry loud enough so people don't hear
hmm,
her. That was a very sad, very touching
hmm,
element right there. So yeah,
hmm. Yeah, I mean,
very
yeah, the
nice.
idea was to, make these two characters because they are both earlier. I had called the film was like the stories of Mrs. Sharma's. Like both of them are in some
Oh,
sense Mrs. Sharma.
right, right,
So each one, evoking other in some
correct,
sense. And finally, she's the one who still sympathizes. Like when the flower pots gets broken, she's
right.
the one who's so she's become sort of this. She has some understanding of what would have went wrong, and that is why the warning also comes in that I'll also become like the old, like the
Right,
Dad.
right, right.
So yeah.
Thank you so much.
Next question comes from
Feel free to ask, anything which one doesn't like, because now I have made this film 18 months back, so I am no more, in this thing, So if one doesn't like anything, also feel free to ask it or bring it up.
I think you're saying that, but I'm not sure that there is anybody who didn't like this film. My question they
I
don't
mean,
like,
aspect.
but
Yeah.
maybe this is a challenge for somebody to come up with something. Carl, yep, you can turn on your mic and camera and ask a question.
Me? Oh, my mic. Is my mic on?
Yes, it is. We can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah, there were these many scenes in the film where people were viewing the news or reading the news. For example, Mr. Sharma and his co-workers, they read the news about how the government was going to change the way, I guess, temp employees were paid. And I could see how that, framed the context for, why he was so, upset at home, loss of income. But there were other news that I didn't see how it reflected, such as changing the name of the city. I didn't understand the context of the relevance of that.
I mean, yeah, you're right. The news is in many sense, or the media is in many sense part of the film. You correctly pointed out, for example, how he receives the news of the government have changed certain notifications. Then he himself is a news announcer, so he announces daily about the trains which will be late or trains which will arrive on time. Then there is this news uh, of the city changing its name, and then there is also like this the new radio FM kind of things, which is not news but more of a gossip. So I wanted one was I will come to your exact answer, but one was that how there are certain things which is not required, like the trains getting late. Yeah, the All India Radio still does that, but in the city no one listens to. In the village there are people still listens to. So there are certain practices which is just a carry forward from the past, and they're stuck in that time zone. which may not be required for a urban person. For the village, it becomes a different story altogether. And then there is also this radio where this girl is chit chatting about flirting with a guy, and this is also a very new thing in the Indian radio thing. Like you can suddenly call up something, make a fool out of them, and then you enjoy it in some sense. And so there, in that sense, it is a part and parcel of the story which is being weaved in. With regard to your specific question about city changing its name, India, it's a highly contested thing because it's a battle of history. Like say, the Mughals were part of India, the Britishers ruled India. So Indian cities have very different names. Say within in Allahabad where I live, it's called Hastings Road. Now, Hastings was a colonel who served in the British Army, and the name just carries forward from there. So this government is almost, and Allahabad, the specific name, it was there in the text, but it was the city was established by the Mughal Emperor Akbar, and it was like where the Allah resides, or the holy place. I mean, there are different versions of where the name came from. So then it's a very specific thing of this government to specifically change names which had either said by the Muslim rulers or have some Muslim connotation, like some Islamic connotation in it. So Prayagraj is the Hinduized version of it. So I just wanted to, and it's a hotly contested thing. Like one of the thing is that every 2-3 months you see something has been renamed. So, and especially in the Uttar Pradesh where the state where I live in, it's very, very common. So I mean, it was like I wanted to sort of evoke or say that the people's mentality had changed back then, and now symbolically you can see it in the changing of the name itself.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl, for that question. I think there's a lot of people who would have wanted to hear that explanation because the context is so specific if you're not familiar with the politics happening in India. So our next question comes from Chale. Chale, I'm gonna ask you to turn on your mic and video and ask your question.
Is the mic on?
Yes.
Okay, good. Aside from the wonderful acting and I think your excellent direction, I was very impressed with the look of the film. And there's a number of shots through doorways, windows, reflections from mirrors and all that. So how did you and your cinematographer work together on getting those particular compositions?
Thanks for the question. Often in discussion of the whole environment, these things get lost. But thank you for it. So we one was that we wanted to let the time flow in, rather than hurrying through a scene. We wanted to let the scene unfold, and that comes because if you see it sometimes just unfolding it, then you keep thinking about what is happening rather than just rushing with the plot of one thing flowing after another thing and you keeping a track of it. So immediately through that the idea came was to mostly use pans, slow pan from one place to another place, or just hold the camera like a still frame where these things are just holding and happening, and through the characters movement let the lensing change. Like sometimes they come in the extreme foreground and then they move back to the background. So we spent almost a week, 10 days in the house just trying to figure out of this, how can we get this feeling of just observing something. So that is why you see those things through the doorway, or just there's a lot of dining table conversations. So just letting the camera stay and let the people move a lot, let them move the vessels where they are cooking. And only later half of the film we tend to fragment the space where every character is on their own. So in the latter half, you will not see all the shots are not consistent shots. Often you will go very close, or they will be divided from one to another. With mirror, we were very careful because we wanted to have the play with the story of reflection and things like that. So we actually, based on the shots, we changed position of the mirrors, thinking, okay, if this mirror is here, then this will reflect. And because there were many scenes where mirror is because mirror is used as a motif in the film throughout. So, but we had to cut down on many scenes. So I was feeling sad that maybe many of the good scenes I cut it down. So I'm glad that.
All right. Excellent. Well, it's a very beautiful looking film, as well as the content being important. I have one silly little question. Is there really a housing development called Hare Krishna Heights?
No, not that particular one. That
Okay.
particular one was called something else. But
right.
but it's very common in India. It's
Oh.
like you are appealing to two constituents. Idea of these heights kind of thing. I think they're from US or something, because that wasn't the word we used to use in India, at least. And then the idea of Hare Krishna, because you also want to sell the Hindu brand. So
Right. Okay.
yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Next question comes from Nidhi. Nidhi, give me a second and I'm going to ask you to ask your question.
Hello, hi. Thank you, Kislay. Thank you, Ananya. I wasn't sure. I'm not very tech savvy, so I hope everyone can hear me. Yeah. किसले बहुत ही खूब अपने कैमरा और अपने एक्टर्स के साथ इतनी मजेदार फिल्म बनाई है. It's amazing. What I wanted to just ask you real quick is, obviously we see on the camera, on the screen, we see the patriarchy. So if you could comment on that, and also, what we call toxic masculinity, where, you see the relationship with the sister and the brother, you see the relationship with the husband and the wife, you see a bit of the sort of, very sad, it seems, broken dreams or despondency of the mother, and then in contraposition, you see this wonderful liberation, which is unfolding with the grandmother, with Mrs. Sharma, the elderly Miss Sharma. So I wanted to just ask you if that was something deliberate, that you wanted to bring out that patriarchy that we're experiencing, or what was your intention behind that? Thank you.
Thank you, Nidhi. Thank you for the kind words. Shukriya aapka. Yes, I mean the theme of patriarchy and family was anyways there. In this journey which this character takes. But it wasn't. I didn't intend to make it a exhilarating. This character versus the patriarchy of the society. In fact, I thought let everyone, including Mrs. Sharma, should be imbued with this idea, because they are literally breathing that air. So of course the character of brother stands out because he is literally doing certain very violent things, and for that kind of age. But in small ways, the way people are dealing with each other, the way, say for example, the mother-in-law, the daughter-in-law Sonia, for example, the way she wants that her daughter should only wear the white bra, or say the way Mrs. Sharma treats the Sugandhi, her friend, when she returns late. So it is like this. Everyone is almost wearing one aspect of it, because it's literally in the environment. Like, I am trying to articulate something, but if you put me in that environment for too long, maybe I'll also be one of the characters within the film. So that was the idea which I wanted to give, that it's daily, it's mundane, and everyone is participating in it, including the woman character.
Yeah.
And yes, of course, the I mean the violence which you are seeing in India, and if you suddenly shifted that gaze to violence which is unfolds in many parts of Indian family, you will see maybe it's much more. So I literally wanted to understand this family which is together, which is going through a hard time, and yet at points people can just start barking at each other, but they are still at the end of the day human beings. So say for example, the younger son, he really wants to in some sense control her elder sister, his elder sister, because he thinks that okay, there are these new technologies where people can date, chat, send pictures, and he's really afraid because his friends keep doing exactly that, and they talk very disparagingly about the females. But also on the other hand, he's also very sad when he sees his sister crying. Like he's just not able to understand and articulate it, that why is she crying, I'm doing this something which is required. So yeah, I wanted to, I mean, often people films which deal with patriarchy deals with it in a very white and black manner. Like people who are liberated, and people, or the other kind of people, almost become almost like a spokesperson of a patriarchal character. So I wanted to blur that line and try and understand also everyone, and that is the complexity of patriarchy in some sense, that that it is an institutional thing, and everyone in some sense participates in it in different ways. Of course, the males have a certain kind of aggression which the female characters don't have, and that is also the reality.
Thank you.
That was really well captured, I think. Just the gray areas where everyone is sort of not exactly complicit because everyone's just trying to live their lives in that way. The next question comes from Shuja. Shuja, I think you can turn on your camera and mic.
Kislay, a really great job. Really enjoyed. It's great to have you and have your film screened here also. It's amazing. My question, really, what you have really beautifully captured here is the changing India, right? The India, like, it is either changing or has changed for good, maybe, or for some time at least. For what do you think is the one thing about India or Allahabad in that context that changed, that shocked you or moved you emotionally, that you wanted to capture in the film and really present it to the audiences? One big thing that you think is like, wow, this wasn't there when I was there, or from there on.
India, when I was living or when I was studying over there, was still this whole thing of because Allahabad is also a confluence of rivers. Like two different rivers of India, Ganga and Yamuna, they meet in Allahabad. So it has been a holy place, but it was also called a Ganga Yamuna Tehzeeb. Like it's a place of confluence where different meet. And that was the trick, that even though it's in UP, there haven't been any riots, and people can live together. That was the whole idea of it. But that has all changed, and Allahabad becoming Prayagraj was only one symbolic part of it, because people changed, their attitude towards different communities changed, and there is so much of hatred in very normal people. Like they will not do anything, they will won't be the righteous, or they will not do like they won't do something bad, but just in their daily conversation. Like if you go for a cup of tea and just stand, because like there are all these small tea shops, and even though it's very hot and humid climate, people are big fan of drinking tea. So if you just go and have tea and just listen in to the conversation, you will be shocked. You will be shocked with there's a whole mundaneness to the violent things. Like it can be talked about in a very mundane way. So that was shocking. That was indeed shocking, and I mean it's not shocking because it's happening slowly over a period of time. So it's not like you suddenly go back and it has 10 years have passed and you are like shocked to see people. I mean you also get used to it unfolding slowly and slowly and slowly. So yeah.
Thank you, sir.
and there's this whole, I think all over India, there is this whole thing of that now we should prove it to the world. I mean, there's such a to prove it to the world, like, you know, and I think it's the same everywhere, you know, like Trump says, make a, and we keep thinking civilization in the world, and we have to somehow prove it. And I think Indian diaspora contributes in this kind of sense as anything else.
As a Pakistani, I can say that
So nice to meet
same
different
case
kind
in,
of people
in
here, because
Pakistan.
otherwise I had a very different idea. Okay. I can't hear Shuja now.
Can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah, I can. I
was just saying, as a Pakistani, I can attest to the fact that that is the same case in Pakistan too, just to show to the world, like, hey, we are great or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you. We will take just one last question.
Yeah.
I think I just want to quickly clear up. Somebody had asked, is Mr. Sharma the son or nephew of the elder Mrs. Sharma? And I think he was the son, right? And that's it. So that was the question. And the last question is from Christina Isaacs. Christina, I'm going to ask you to turn on your mic and camera and ask your question.
Hi, I really enjoyed the film. I've been watching all the Indian films for 5-6 years, so it's so my mother recently retired from her work. She's aimless. She has no purpose in life right now, and it's very depressing. So when I saw this grandmother making new friends, getting new interests, to me it was very positive. And so my question is, clearly her family and her community did not like her doing this. What was she expected to do when her husband died? What was her role supposed to be?
Yeah. Christina, you can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I got your question. I didn't get the first half, but I got the question. You know, there is this whole, I mean, not just after the husband dies, you know, even like there is this whole image of Mother India, which is like an archetypical image of you know, mother being of a certain kind. One is that you have everything for the family, like family is supreme, and you are either there is a, it's like mothers are celebrated goddess kind of a thing, but without giving them any personality. So you are supposed to be giving, you are supposed to not have personal ambitions, are not supposed to you are not supposed to just enjoy material things. So it's like you should be able to give, and then you are really valued. In fact, in the film, there's this whole the film is when Mrs. Sharma is sleeping, and you see a film is going on where the mother is trying to save two of her children, and that is a frame from the famous iconic movie called Mother India. So Mother India had this iconic film which came after the independence, and it was about a mother sacrificing herself for the nation, for her children. So this sacrificial idea of mother is, you know, it's built in our, you know, it's like a collective psyche, and mother figuring that. And of course, after the husband dies, you are supposed to, I mean, either involve yourself with the religious task, or, you know, you become in some sense head of the family, but without any financial decisions. Like you can advise about the rituals, you can go to different, like when people die, when people get born, rituals. So you are supposed to, you know, master. That's the playing field the woman receives, and they become master of that. Like they start enjoying that role as well after a point. So that was the whole idea, and I wanted to show that Mrs. Sharma is just bored of this. Like she's not sure what direction to take, but she's just bored of those old committee meetings or going for these, you know, religious programs or going to temples. And out of accident she keeps discovering what. So she's not conscious of changing things, but she's literally bored. And for the first time, I think she has a lot of time. So she's also confused. Like earlier, it was about, because she is from a Brahmin family, and this his husband was a very like the religious head of the society and telling things and this and that. So I wanted to see that how suddenly she breaks free and she has time, and then she starts enjoying different things. And articulation comes of, okay, I'm enjoying these things.
It's a great movie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kislay, for answering your question. For answering our questions. This was the last one, and we can all head back to the floor after this and kind of mingle more if you still have time. But I wanted the whole Indie Meme team to turn your cameras on and your mics on, and just say thanks for. I want to say thanks for everybody who made this happen. The whole team. It's
Hi,
really
Alka.
incredible, and thanks to you for joining us.
Hello.
Kislay, you had the best Q&A. We went almost an hour. We didn't really think we'd go for an hour, but you've been so patient and so wonderful with all your answers. And I think our audience really, really appreciated hearing from you.
Thank you.
Frozen. Can anyone hear him?
I can't hear him, so maybe it is a sign that his internet has reached its limit with us. So let's all head back to the floor. Okay.
Yes, let's do that.
Right.
Bye.